Hello, students. This is the second part of the poem Television by Roald Dahl. Part 1 was presented earlier. This is presentation of part 2. So here we go. In part 1, you would have understood that the poet speaks against watching television. And in this part, the second part, what we're going to do now, he answers the question as to why television is bad for children and what children can do instead of watching television all the time. We'll answer this by asking you, what use the darling ones to do? How used they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? A monster is an imaginary creature with distorted body parts. Have you forgotten? Don't you know? The poet answers the question only by throwing another question. What did people do to keep themselves entertained when television was not invented? TV set is a dreaded device, a monster to him. He wants people to remember what they did in the absence of such a device. Say it very loud and slow. They used to read. They'd read and read and read and read and then proceed to read some more. Great Scott, gadzooks, which is an expression of surprise or shock. One half their lives was reading books. The poet himself reminds us that children in earlier times used to read a lot of books. Surprisingly, people then spent half their lifetime by reading books. Great Scott, gadzooks is an expression of surprise or amazement. Nursery shelves held books galore. Books cluttered up the nursery floor, and in the bedroom by the bed, more books were waiting to be read. In those earlier days, the nursery shelves, that is the play schools, in the nursery schools, the nursery shelves were full of books. In fact, books remained scattered on the floor as well. Even in their homes, the bedroom and the bed, books were cluttered up everywhere. With this, we understand that in the olden times, there was nothing else for children to do excepting spend their time with books, read and learn, read and imagine a world of fantasy. Such wondrous, fine, fantastic tales of dragons, gypsies, queens, and whales, and treasure isles and distant shores, where smugglers rowed with muffled oars, and pirates wearing purple pants, and sailing ships and elephants, and cannibals crouching round the pot, stirring away at something hot. It smells so good. What can it be? Good gracious, it's Penelope. Now, here he talks about the kind of books that the children used to read, what their fantasy land comprised of. He talks about the popular books of adventure that children used to read in his time. In those days, boys and girls read fantastic stories of dragons, gypsies, queens, whales, treasure islands, smugglers, pirates, ships, elephants, cannibals. Cannibals are monsters that eat other human beings. And Penelope is a popular character from a book. So when he speaks of cannibals crouching round the pot, he's talking about a pot over a fire in which something is cooking and cannibals are moving around that pot cooking something in the pot, stirring something. And then he says it smells so good. What can it be? What can it be? It was probably Penelope, the character from a book. So the cannibals were eating away Penelope. The young ones had Beatrix Potter, with Mr. Todd the dirty rotter, and Squirrel Nutking Pigling Bland, and Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, and just how the camel got his hump, and how the monkey lost his rump, and Mr. Toad, and bless my soul, there's Mr. Rat and Mr. Mole. Oh, books, what books they used to know, those children living long ago. In the last two stanzas, the poet has only tried to point out the variety of books that were available to children in his time. He talks of that time as some period in history which was like a very long time ago. So, here in this stanza, also, he speaks of characters from storybooks like Beatrix Potter was a writer whose books contained characters like Mr. Todd, Squirrel Nut King, Pigling Bland, Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, How the Camel Got His Hump, and How the Monkey Lost His Rump, Mr. Toad, Mr. Rat, Mr. Mole, all these are characters. The young children used to read storybooks written by Helen Beatrix Potter, an author of children's books featuring animals with colorful illustrations, which means with colorful pictures. Dahl here pays a tribute to the author for her fantastic stories on animals. He also mentions some of the stories like How the Camel Got His Hump and some characters like Mr. Toad and Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, etc., from those stories. This shows the poet's love for those books and how he enjoyed them in his childhood days and how he remembers them even today when he has become a full fledged writer. Please, oh please, we beg, we pray, go throw your TV set away, and in its place you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. Roald Dahl, the poet, now requests the parents, for their own good and for the good of their own children, to throw away the television set and, in place of that television set, to install a bookshelf. In this stanza, the poet oversees the problems, the issues that the parents might face with their children once they install a bookshelf filled with books. He says, fill the shelves with lots of books, ignoring all the dirty looks, the screams and yells, the bites and kicks, and children hitting you with sticks. Though this is a little exaggerated, children don't hit their parents with sticks. Do you? No, you don't. You may give your parents dirty looks, you may scream and shout and bite and kick, but that is how you show your resistance. After installing the bookshelf in place of a TV set, the parents will face some dirty looks, screams, yells, bites, and kicks from their children. The children may even hit them with sticks. Or maybe it is the other way around. In order to discipline the children, the parents may hit the children with sticks. So there is going to be some violence. But the poet insists on filling that shelf with lots of books on various topics and to ignore those uh, expressions of resistance. Fear not, because we promise you that in about a week or two of having nothing else to do, they'll now begin to feel the need of something, of having something to read. Dahl here assures the parents and the readers that after a week or two, those children would find nothing to do without a TV set around. So they will finally feel the need to go to that bookshelf and to pick up a book to read it. They will come closer to books on their own. And once they start, oh boy, you watch the slowly growing joy that fills their hearts. They'll grow so keen they'll wonder what they'd ever seen in that ridiculous machine, that nauseating, foul, unclean, repulsive television screen. Repulsive means hateful. So now here the poet speaks about the after effects of starting reading, the habit of reading. Once they start reading, the only way is ahead of them. They will find it interesting to read more and more books. That will give them the imagination and thoughts, the knowledge and wisdom, the satisfaction of mind and heart. And at one stage, they will grow so keen on reading books that they will wonder what they had found in that silly machine called television. They will find the television screen disgusting. Disgusting means hateful and unclean. Then, as they will discover the real joy of reading books. In the last stanza of the poem, last two lines of the poem, the poet talks of the rewards that the parents will receive from their own children. And later, each and every kid will love you more for what you did. And finally, each and every kid will love their parents for giving them the opportunity to find real joy in reading books. Even when they would grow up, they would thank their parents for taking the television set away and installing the bookshelf there. The poet advocates, advocates means promotes Reading and only reading. Dahl thinks that TV can never be a substitute for books. Books are the only things that can deliver real wisdom.